Hey everybody, it's Rod Pedersen from the Rod Pedersen Show on Game Plus TV, and I'm coming up on the I Only Touch Greatness podcast with Mike and Ryan.
Looking for the most beers on tap? Great steaks, great staff? Head over to the John B. Pub.
We got the best beers, steaks, chicken wings, nachos in town. Come see us at the John B. Pub.
The John B. Pub, the best bar in town. Come sign up for our football pool. Say Hayes sent you.
The number one sports podcast in Vancouver with Ryan Hayes and Big Mike.
Ryan Hayes and Big Mike are taking over the podcast scene in Vancouver. Get down or lay down. Lay down. Lay down.
Yeah, so born in Sask. Tell us a little bit about childhood, and did you play any sports growing up?
Are we recording this part of the show?
Yeah, that was our first question. But
okay. Did I play? It's funny you say that because I spent 20 years in the Canadian Football League, as you know, but I never had football in my town. I grew up in a little town 30 miles south of Regina, 640 people on a farm, and I played every sport that we had, which was hockey, baseball, volleyball, curling, but no football. So yeah, I'm a farm kid, youngest of three boys. And the interesting thing is my dad worked in the NHL for 26 years for the Dallas Stars and Minnesota North Stars. So he's a scout. So I'm a hockey guy by trade, just ended up in the football world for a real long time. And it was a lot of fun.
Okay. Are you ready for all your you do any fantasy football drafts this week?
I'll get dragged into one or two, probably. I don't have anything planned right now.
Okay.
How about you guys?
Oh yeah. I'm in 3 this year, normally 5, but 3 this year. And Mike's in a few as well.
Yeah,
how do you keep it straight?
You try to draft the same players so they're always on the same buy, and you try to keep your teams pretty much the same.
Yeah. Well, as long as it doesn't end up to be too much of a headache. I was pretty heavy into DraftKings and FanDuel over the years, but I mean, I was that guy that comes Sunday morning, I didn't have my team picked, right? And it was just a bunch of added stress. So I'm not in any leagues. I'll probably play some game day stuff as the season goes along. I'm in a little more into betting than I am into fantasy, but everybody has their own thing, right?
Oh yeah, that's for
of
sure.
Course.
I still do the pick'ems as well. Yep.
So how did the broadcasting all start for you? Like, how did it all get going?
Well, from the time I was in grade 1, we had a career day and they asked kids to get up at the front of the room and talk about what they wanted to do for a living. And I made a microphone out of tin foil and got my parents' headphones, big headphones. I said, I want to be a radio announcer when I was 6. And then honestly, I never really thought about a career in sports. I started DJing when I was in grade 11, in the nearest radio station was in Weyburn. I'm sure you guys heard of Weyburn, Saskatchewan, home of the Red Wings. Yeah. So I did that. And then I got asked to do some senior hockey. So I started doing senior hockey in grade 12, still DJing on weekends. So that was just something I always wanted to do. And then I went away to broadcasting school in Calgary. It was a 2-year program that I only completed a year. And I got offered a job to call Regina Rams football games, junior football, and ended up in the Western Hockey League at the age of 20 with the Prince Albert Raiders. And I came to Regina when I was 22 and went on to do the Pats for 15 seasons and got hired to do the Rough Riders in 1999 and did that for 20 seasons. So it's all I've ever really wanted to do. And now, I mean, I still love broadcasting, but play-by-play isn't really what I'm kind of floats my boat. This show daily, I mean, for years, the football guys always said, you got the best job in the world doing football play-by-play. And for the longest time it was. But now to sit and do sports talk every day for 2 hours, we start at 10, we're off the air at noon.
Yeah.
It's not working 2 hours a day. And now, the fun part about the play-by-play was always the travel and everything, but that kind of wore on me a little bit too after time. But now with our show, just this summer, we've taken it to Montreal for the Stanley Cup. We went to Winnipeg for the Bombers World Junior Lacrosse. I'm going on an NFL tour next month. I can do this show from anywhere. So just that chapter closed and this opened, and it's kind of cool to tackle a whole new thing. And to talk sports every day is, I think, a dream that most guys
Pretty much
aspire to. Pretty lucky.
Isn't that why we all have our own podcasts and our own shows? And everybody just wants to sit around and talk sports, but
Yeah, exactly. So I'm pretty lucky.
We've been at it for about a year. We've got 380 episodes roughly in a year.
Wow.
I know we've had many of the same guests on: Connor Bedard, Brent Sopels, Kurt Angle. I think you had too, the wrestler.
Yeah.
You had Kurt Angle, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. There's many. We've done a lot of the hockey guys, the Grant Fewers, and tons of them. A lot of Canucks, and then we focused a lot on like the prospects and country music singers and rappers. And I like to do pretty much anything we can. Why say no to an interview when you can take on somebody? I don't really care what their genre is. They can go.
Well, and the funnest part with this show is not being told what to do. And the cool thing for us when we started our first show, when we were on Facebook Live only, was June 3rd, 2019. And it's gone fast. And the thing about it was, and I'm sure, I don't know if you guys have found this or not, but nobody could tell us what to do because nobody had ever done it before. So we continue to just find new ways of doing things and stuff. And like I say, play-by-play's changed over the years. Players have changed. Coaches have changed. And it's sort of like when you're critical of them and you're the voice of the team, man, I hear from a lot of play-by-play guys now saying, oh, they're mad at me for saying this and this player's mad for that. And I'm like, I don't know what to tell you, man. Like I dealt with that. I saw it coming through my whole career, but it's at the worst point now. Like I just remember a Prince Albert Raider in 1993. One of the players got after me on the bus for saying he got beat up in a fight. I'm like, you did. And he goes, yeah,
exactly.
But he's like, you didn't have to say that. I said, well, I don't know what you want me to say. And to be honest, to say it's only got worse makes me sound bitter, because I'm not bitter. It's just the players have really changed. And any little bit, you guys can go on and say whatever you want. I can go on and say whatever I want. And what are they going to say? But when you work for the team, it just became a really uncomfortable vice to be in every time you crack the mic. Now, you're trying to please so many people.
Yeah.
Whereas with us now, I just feel accountable to the viewers, and to be able to report what I know, say what I think, that's just the most liberating thing. And I don't really want to do anything else now because it's a lot of fun.
And I agree. It's a good way to look at it, to be honest, because you got to watch what you say, and we're lucky we can say what the hell we want. So
and that makes you accountable too, in that if you're saying stupid stuff or you're wrong, or people aren't going to keep watching, right? And I think that's what's been the growth of my show, that I didn't really realize it at the time. Players started jumping all over each other to come on our show, and it's not just guys that I knew. Now it's mostly players that I don't know. And but it's that they know that I'm not going to put them through the ringer. I'm not going to, try and pin them to the mat with questions. Our show is comfortable for the guests, and there's really nothing like it. Not in Canada, anyways. There's a few in the States, but it's a place for, like, for instance, Mike Babcock's first interview after he got fired by the Leafs 2 years later was on our show, and he came on and kind of told his side of the story. And I knew Babs going way back to the Spokane Chiefs days, 20 some years ago. So for me, it's 30 plus years in the business, but doing something new is really cool.
Yeah. And of course we had Mike Commodore on. He's
Ooh.
yeah.
He had the opposite of what you'd probably heard from Babcock.
Hey, well, you know what? We all have coaches we didn't like. We all have had bosses we don't like. And one thing that I've learned in this business or in life, and I can't come off it, is just judge. If you have to judge people, judge them on how they treat you. And Mike Babcock had never been anything but first class to me, going way back to the junior days. And he continues to be that way. But this is the thing with Kami. Never met him, but his friends absolutely love him. And we go through a wall for him. I don't think he's a bad guy either. But you know what? I've been screwed over so many times. We don't have enough time in this podcast to talk about how many times I've been screwed over, and I don't sit and ruminate on it. I look ahead, not back. But, Mike Commodore's probably got very good reason to feel the way he does. But like Matthew Barnaby's become a really good friend of mine. And Barney's like, and he's a great friend of Commodore's. He's like, I have no issue with Mike Babcock. He's done nothing to me. So that whole story of Commodore versus Babcock is a funny one, but I like stay the hell out of that.
Oh yeah.
I agree.
When we had Barnaby on the show, he didn't really touch on it much. He didn't need to. Like you said,
exactly.
It's not his problem. So he was a good one.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite interview?
Boy, that's I get asked that a lot, or most famous person you met, and the one that bothers me is the one I don't have.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was standing probably 6 feet from Wayne Gretzky on the floor of the arena in Raleigh, North Carolina at the NHL draft. And he was just having a coffee. It was like 11 in the morning at the draft. And I was too nervous to go up and say hi. And all these years later, I wish that I had, because how many people have interrupted Wayne Gretzky when he was doing nothing? Probably 3 million. I'm like, I would have been 3,000,001, but I didn't. And he's the one guy. A lot of people ask, who's the one interview? I'm like, it's Wayne. If you could get, who's the one guy? And for me, it's Wayne Gretzky. And I never had that opportunity because I was too shy. So I've kind of vowed that if that opportunity ever presents itself again, I won't be too shy.
So that leads to my next question. Then, if you were having a dream party and you could invite 3 famous people, dead or alive, who would you invite?
I don't know if you guys are old enough or not, but I was asked that question by the Regina Leader-Post newspaper probably 15 years ago, or maybe 20 years ago. And my answer then is the same as now. It would be David Letterman.
Yeah.
Who's still alive. George Strait, who's still alive.
Sweet.
And my grandpa, who passed away when I was 9, my mom's dad, Marion, because he was a pretty cool dude. And when my mom read that in the paper, she bawled her eyes out that I would say that. But so those would be the 3. But George Strait, we were just talking about him on the show this week. I've been in this fan club since I was 12 years old. And I was fortunate enough to meet him. But those would be my 3. David Letterman, George Strait, and my grandpa, Marion Nicholas.
I seen George Strait live.
Great choices.
Yeah, and I saw George Strait live back in the day.
Where?
You remember, I believe it was Abbotsford out here. 93-ish, maybe around there. And it was right after.
So you got a little age. You got a little age on you.
Yeah, I'm 38, so.
Okay, you don't look it.
Well, yeah, wait till I take the hat off, man. You gotta get one of our questions. Well, hang on, I'll get to that after. But you remember the movie Pure Country that George Strait did?
We were just talking about that the other day. Do I remember?
Yeah,
dude, I just said I was in his fan club since I was 12.
Yeah, of course. So it was right around that time.
Yeah, I was living in Prince Albert, voice of the Raiders, and the theater in PA isn't very big. So the theaters in Saskatoon had it. So I drove down. It was an hour and a half to watch Pure Country in the theater. That's how big of a fan of him that I was. But I was so excited. I had like an anxiety blackout. I barely remembered the movie when I walked out. Like I have normal infatuation with George Strait. So obviously, yes, I remember the movie.
All right. I love that song. Still, I have it on my playlist that he sang on the Pure Country soundtrack.
Yeah.
And also, we're in our BC Lions gear because we just had Arlen Bruce on. I know he only just played for 1 season here, but a championship.
Quite a season.
Yeah, right?
Yeah. Huge. Turn it around for us.
Well, what's cool for him, because him and Tad Cornegay, if you guys remember, were both signed when the Lions were 0-5. And it's super cool that those two together are in CFL lore. Tad's a really good buddy of mine. Arlen, I've just gotten to know, but we kind of click because we're a little bit of kindred souls, a little out there. And people always talk about the 0-5 BC Lions. When any team is crap starting the year, everybody's like, well, remember the 2011 BC Lions, right? And those two get the credit for turning it around. Whether they deserve it or not, I don't know. They take the credit, and good for them. But I did ask Wally about it, and those guys, not only did they sign him, but they played such key roles in that championship year. That's pretty cool to be part of CFL lore like that.
Yeah, I met Tad a few times through Dante Marsh. They came out to a couple events I'd put on here in Vancouver back in the day.
Both beauties, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely are. Hey, who is your favorite sports hero?
Well, my favorite hockey player growing up was Mike Modano. Okay. But that was, a lot because of my dad's association with Dallas and Minnesota. But Mike was just deadly. I mean, the highest American scoring player of all time. Canadian Football League, NFL, Troy Aikman.
Okay.
Because when I say growing up on a farm, I don't think you guys understand. When I went away to college, it was the first time that I'd had cable television. So believe that or not, I'm 48. I'm not ancient, but I was maybe a little sheltered growing up. So that was early 90s Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah.
So I'm watching the Cowboys going, they're cool. These guys are cool. And they won 3 Super Bowls. So Troy's always been my guy. He's still my guy. And the problem is I always compare every Dallas Cowboys quarterback to Troy now. And they all fail and don't measure up, including Dakota Prescott. And, CFL, that's a tough one after having worked in the league for so long. But I will say, having watched Doug Flutie live and been on the sidelines, because I did the sidelines for years before I was in the booth, just to see him was, they say to this day, he's the greatest player that ever played in the CFL. And I just can't think of anybody else. There might have been better before him. A lot of the old timers say Warren Moon, but I never saw him live.
Yeah.
And so favorite player, tough. Well, my favorite Rough Rider ever is Jeff Fairholm, and you guys probably wouldn't know who that was, but he's a Canadian speedster on the 89 Grey Cup team, and he's become a really good friend of mine, Jeff Fairholm. I got a Fairholm jersey 18 that I wear. He's my guy. So there's a few.
Okay.
You got to obviously broadcast at major events 4 times, the Grey Cup, I believe, and also the 2012 World Juniors. Take us back to doing the World Juniors. That would have been a cool experience.
It was unbelievable, and I was pretty proud of this. Sportsnet called me because they needed a play-by-play guy for their radio network, which was 22 stations, and they said, we want the best guy that's not in the NHL, and we think that's you. Would you be willing to come up and do these games? And I'm like, absolutely. So it was in Edmonton and Calgary, so the round robin was in Edmonton. So obviously over the Christmas holidays, Rexall Place, 16,700, I think was the attendance, packed every game. That was wild. And then going down to Calgary, we did the medal round down there. And it's interesting, just like when you guys have had the World Juniors out there, they're usually in one venue for a week and then another venue for the second. Well, when we left Edmonton after the first week, I was so excited to get out of there and get down to Calgary for the medal round. Everybody in Edmonton's, they're like crying. They were like, it's over for us, right? We can't watch it live. So we go down to the Saddle Dome, and I'm calling those games. And the semifinal is a game that I'll never forget. I think I have the scores right, but it was Canada-Russia. And Jaden Schwartz was on Canada, and Ryan Murray, and just trying to remember some of the names, Brett Connolly, Brendan Gallagher, West Coast guy. And Canada got down 5-0 to Russia. And halfway through the second period, came back and tied it, I believe, 5-5. And the Saddle Dome went, oh my God, it was like literally the loudest venue I'd ever heard in my life was the Saddle Dome when Canada was coming back. There's something about when it's international, and it's Canada versus Russia. Jeez, just me as the radio guy had tingles. And then unfortunately, Russia won it 6-5, and Canada went on to win the bronze medal over Finland. But Tanner Pearson was on Canada too. But I'll never forget the trainer for Team Canada threw me a tracksuit that the players had, or that like what players wore, and I still have it to this day. I'm like, oh my God, I represented Canada only on the radio, but they treated it just like I was the first line center. And Don Hay was the coach, and that was one of the fondest memories of my life.
Oh yeah, Don
he's a beauty too. Yeah, of course. Yeah. How hard was it pronouncing all those names, though? I mean, some of those names coming up must have been tough.
I don't have a lot of natural talents in my life, but one is play-by-play. And I'll never forget, Sammy Cosentino was doing my color, and Sam was having a nervous breakdown about these names and everything. And he wanted to have all these meetings. And I'm like, Sammy, I got it. He's like, what do you mean you got it? I said, just you go do what you got to do, and I'll do what I got to do. I'll never forget the morning of the first game, Boxing Day, Canada-Finland. I was having breakfast with Al Murray, he's the head scout for the Tampa Bay Lightning. And I said, Al, would you mind just sitting down with me and going through these names? And he did. I wrote out all phonetically how to say them because he knew he'd been watching them for years. And then every game I would go to just stand by the glass and warm up and just watch the guys go through. And because I'm not name versus numbers, but I can tell you, does this guy have a mullet? Does this guy skate bow-legged? Is this guy thick? Is he skinny? I call them based on body types, if that makes sense, right? So like, and then once we got into the games, once all the 4 lines went through, I just naturally have the ability to remember their names. So that's a pretty rare talent. So I guess I was in the right field, but those names never really intimidated me a whole lot. Now these days in football, it's getting a little crazy. Like I was watching the Chargers and 49ers on Sunday night, the preseason game, and Alex Ogbongbemiga, Canadian linebacker, was playing for the Chargers. I'm like, you could never call the play and get these guys' names out. And like, you know what I think? They're so long and intricate. And the names never used to be like that. I kind of feel bad sometimes for the play-by-play guys just because they've become really difficult.
That's for sure. That's for sure. Hey, what's the greatest invention in your lifetime?
The internet.
Yeah. Okay. Other than the internet.
Other than the internet.
That's everybody's number one answer, I would hope.
Well, honestly, it's just made our job so much easier. Yeah. Like, you know, if I don't know how long you guys have been doing what you're doing, but I remember the days of dial-up internet and how long it took to upload an interview or trying to do a broadcast from some far-flung rink and the phone line wasn't working. It's just helped our lives in our industry so much. And it's funny because since I left the Riders, I spent a lot more time in my hometown, and I look at the farmers with satellite GPS technology and grain calculations and so much, man, it's not just broadcasting, internet's help. Like, so yeah, just honest. Yeah. So I guess it's the internet, but beyond that, the best invention. Well, I'm an old school guy. You got to remember too. Like I hate Alexa with a passion. I hate it.
Oh, I mean,
we had some renos done at my house, and they're like, "Do you want technology that you don't have to get off the couch to change the channel or do it?" I'm like, no, I don't. I will get up and change the channel or turn the lights on. I'm okay with doing things the old way. So internet's the first thing that came to mind. I can't think of too many others, to be honest with you. I mean, I think that graphite hockey sticks are the bane of, because I was a goalie.
All right.
And back in my time, there might have been one guy that could shoot 95 mile an hour that I would face in a game. Now they all do. It's just not fair. So that's something I don't like is graphite sticks.
Remember the old hard steel Easton aluminums? Fuck.
Yeah. I didn't have as much a problem with that. I mean, but the things that burn in your memory. I mean, I was in the Western Hockey League for 17 years. And as I said, grew up as a hockey guy. To this day, I can still smell that torch on the stick of the guys
glue.
And the glue. Exact. Oh my God. And it wasn't a pleasant smell.
No,
but it's just, you go by the dressing room and just the guys with their, and the hours and hours and hours they would spend on their sticks. Now they come just made to order for every player. I'm like, how do you guys spend your time now? Because I know for a fact they just enjoyed fiddling with their sticks. You know what I mean? And now they don't have to do that. I don't know how they pass their time anymore.
Now they play sewer ball.
Well, that's right. That's exactly it. And God help you if you walk through the middle of that or get hit by the ball. Yeah, that's another one.
So Rod, you had Connor Bedard on as well, and obviously we're all excited to see him lay it up this year. But are you going to head out to a Regina game this year? I
call the games on TV, actually.
Oh,
I should have told you that. Yeah, so that I'm very grateful for that. So I called every one of Connor's rookie games last year.
Yeah.
And I just had his general manager on today on my show in the studio, John Paddock, the former Winnipeg Jets and Ottawa Senators coach.
Yeah.
And the thing about Paddock that I love is he loves to just talk hockey and debate hockey. So I said going into last year, I looked up what Connor McDavid and John Tavares had in the rookie year for points as exceptional players. And they were right around a point a game, like a little above a point a game. So I said to Paddock back before Connor ever played a game, I said, I'm shooting for a point a game. And he's like, oh, no. That's too lofty. We shouldn't put expectations on this kid. Did you remember what he ended up having?
Yeah, lots.
It was like 1.87 points a game. And if he only played 22 because it was a shortened bubble season.
Yeah. And
it wasn't just points. Like his goals were in overtime and almost all on breakaways. And so he got into town today, Bedard, and everybody knows that. Like, I just love the kid. I love him. And they said, "Are you going to pick him up at the airport?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm going to be dropping rose petals at his feet when he's sprinkling him with holy water as he comes in." Oh yeah, the fans here started calling him the Holy Child before he even showed up, before he even set foot in Regina. And the Pats, I'll say this now, they said, "Would you please can it with the Holy Child thing?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sure. I'm just having fun, whatever." And I said, "How about the Wonder Boy?" And they're like, "Whatever, just can the religious thing." They don't want to put too much pressure on him. And then he goes out and does that. And then he goes to the World Under 18s as an underage, and he's the player of the tournament, and he's 2 points a game there. So I was talking to an NHL scout afterwards, and I said, "Do you think that I'm still going to get hell for putting too much pressure on this kid?" He's like, "I think you're good." He's answered. Right. Yeah. He's answered every bell so far. I just love watching him play.
And such a good kid, and good parents, obviously too, and Thomas and his mom, and he's got a bright future. Like we can't wait. We were lucky enough to have him on in the very beginning, and
then we met him.
Be happier.
We've met him a few times too in the last couple of months. Being that we're all he skates where we're from.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, just like where is away. We're in Coquitlam.
Coquitlam, yeah. He he was just on my show last week, and this shouldn't surprise me, but I'm like, "Connor, how's the summer been?" And he's like, "Real good. How's yours?" I'm like, "What?" Nobody ever asks how I'm doing. And I got the sense that he actually cared. He is a special person and a special player. Yeah.
He is.
Man, that's pretty. And what about when he almost had that lacrosse goal?
I know. Oh, I couldn't believe he tried it. And thank God, I guess we're on a podcast. I can say it. The nuts on him to try that. And the funny thing was so casual about it. I mean, I really wish he'd scored the goal, obviously.
He's getting this year.
And I hope that I'm at the microphone for it. But there was just so many things that he did. And it kind of, I actually feel sorry for him because in a way, because I've been around these guys so much. Jordan Eberle comes to mind, but he's way better at that age than Eberle was. He doesn't really have a childhood anymore. He went number 1 overall when he was 14.
Yeah.
And I'm just saying the expectations on him, because people didn't really figure out what was going on with Bedard while he was playing here. But when he went to the World Under 18s in Texas, all of Canada woke up and started watching those games on TSN. And people are blowing up my phone going, "Well, he's not McDavid. He's not blowing people away." I said, nobody ever said he was Connor McDavid. He's not going to go 200 mile an hour end to end. That's not what Connor Bedard does. But he's going to, he's got better lateral movement than anybody, and he's going to get his points, and he's going to score unbelievable goals. But don't compare him to anybody. I mean, one of our fans said Marcel Dion is the player that he reminds him of, and I thought that's like the only one that I can think that I would compare this guy to, because nobody's so unique that nobody's been like them ever before. Although McDavid kind of is. And let's remember, Connor's still only, I guess he just turned 16.
Yeah.
I mean, he's still going to get better.
Yeah. And he trains and skates with Barzell in the summers out here. And just seeing them both on the ice together, there ain't much difference. Like he's there. He's ready.
Oh, yeah. And I think that the Pats' biggest task is finding somebody to play with him. Like, can you imagine Bedard going from skating with Matthew Barzal to a WHL line or even this training camp? It's going to almost be too slow for him. But hey, we'll be watching. I mean, like I say, he got into town today. Camp begins right away. I'm going to be at as many sessions as I can because I just love being there.
Pretty sure they just traded for Stringer too, right?
They did. Yeah,
they did.
Very excited about him. And they signed their European too. So they're
going on a run.
Svozil. Yeah, he's good. Yeah, they're going to go on a run here.
That's the plan.
I had to laugh. I had to laugh at your tweet today about Bedard when you said he's arriving and you had the car, all the people chasing the car. It's hilarious. I love it.
I was trying to find a police motorcade like a Trump, you know what I mean, with all the cop cars. I couldn't find that one, but the one that I tweeted, people kind of like that.
Yeah, could be like the OJ, but you could have the OJ, the OJ picture, right?
Exactly.
If you could eat,
if there's go ahead, right?
No, okay. If you could eat pancakes or waffles for the rest of your life, what would you do?
Definitely, I would say pancakes because I more so for the syrup than anything. I love them both. I'm really not an either or guy. I get the question, but I do love them both. But if I had to pick one, it'd be pancakes. Yeah.
Okay. Just trying to throw one in there to stump you.
If there was a karaoke contest and you had to sing one song, what are you singing?
I'd leave.
The answer
it'd probably be Friends in Low Places by Garth Brooks. Yeah.
The answer is always tequila for that. It's only got one word, right?
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Actually, we were saying, do you think Connor's obviously going number one in 2003 or in 2023? Right. He's obviously going number one. That's a stacked draft with the Mitch Kovs and the Fantillis and Mike, who's the other guy we had on?
Dvorsky,
yes.
That's going to be a stacked draft. Like, we're going back to another Crosby draft, I feel.
Well, we've learned a lot in the pandemic about a lot of things. And one thing I've learned is how little people know about anything. And like a lot of these fans, because the Pats here aren't even close to number one. It's Saskatchewan Roughriders by a mile, right? The Pats, if they're good, people will pay attention. But if they're not, nobody's even paying attention. So people all of a sudden are like, oh, there's this Connor Bedard in town. And so they kind of woke up to that. And now, and it's not just in Regina, I find it's all across Canada. People are like, what NHL team's he going to? I'm like, are you that stupid that we don't even know next year who's going to be number one overall because of subject to a lottery? So to project 2 years from now, what teams are trending this way? Pretty good chance that Buffalo will still be the worst. I think the Flames might end up, I really do, in contention for Connor Bedard. But no matter what, the top 3-4 picks are going to have potentially franchise-changing players. I'd have a tough time believing that Connor Bedard wouldn't go number one overall. And the wildest thing was when he was on my show last week, I asked him, are you getting that question about where you'd like to go play or where you think you're going to go play? And he goes, I'm not even sure I'm going to get drafted.
I know. He was humble about that.
And I think he actually meant it.
Yeah.
That was the weird thing.
We have this thing that we do just at the end of the show. We're like, oh, can you just give a shout out to us or whatever? And we asked him, we're like, can you just throw in NHL draft prospect 2023? And he didn't want to do it. Like, he's like, no, not that part. I'll do everything else for you. I just don't want to put pressure on the draft or talk about the draft. And which is fair enough. You could see it as a young kid and how humble he is. Actually,
he's really got a good head on his shoulders, and that's going to serve him well. I think in the talks that I've had with his family, I think they're far, far, far more nervous for him than he is, because he just takes it in stride. Like, none of this stuff seems to bother him.
Yeah, we sat and talked to Mom for about half an hour outside the ice rink last week. She's very nice as well. And Thomas, Dad, is another great guy we've talked to a bunch. I'm hoping the Canucks are around there for number one pick after Montreal goes and offers sheets our Pedersen this week.
Yeah, God knows, eh?
Yeah, and then we end up with like a first round pick in that draft.
Hey, Rod, I just want to thank you very much for taking the time for us and coming on and chat with us. Obviously, we're big fans of your show, and one day we want to be like that. And we appreciate you taking the time.
It's awesome, guys. I really enjoyed it. Thank you. Call anytime.
Looking for the most beers on tap, great steaks, great staff? Head over to the John B. Pub.
We got the best beers, steaks, chicken wings, nachos in town. Come see us at the John B. Pub.
The John B. Pub, the best bar in town. Come sign up for our football pool. Say hey sent you.